Hi friends, it's Becky, and I want to create a beaded chain necklace with y'all using some of the beads findings and this pendant gemstone that I got from the September 2024 Bargain Bead Box. And so I wanted to just make a beaded chain necklace that didn't have a whole bunch of beads. It's going to have some, but it's not going to be a ton of them because I'm going to be using some other kinds of links and some chain to help fill in some of those gaps. So we're going to do that. It's going to make it so that this will be a kind of a quicker make than making like 20 different links. And I'm going to do a very basic wire wrapped bail for this pendant. It's got a top drilled hole in here, so I'm just going to put a bail on it. You could put a jump ring through this, you could do a pinch bail or something else like that, but you know, I know how to work wires, so I'm going to use that instead. I've got myself a length of let's see, this is about maybe 9 inches of antique copper colored 20 gauge craft wire, and this is it right here, antique copper color 20 gauge, and that's going to go with all of these other findings that came in this set. And I'm just trying to find the middle of my wire. I'm doing kind of a U-bend like this by bringing these two ends together after warming it. And then I need to make a little loop on the end, so I'm going to put it almost to the end of my round nose pliers and bring these two around right there. And then right where they meet, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and sort of bend this up so that we have sort of a lollipop bend at the top. Come on, round those pliers. Let's make this round all the way around. And then they come together right here. Now, before I started doing this, I made sure that two lengths, like two of these 20 gauge wires, would fit through this hole. If you have to force it, if it feels tight, if it just won't go in, you'll need a smaller gauge wire or use a different type of bail. But I know that this will actually fit, so I'm going to go on with it from here. So now that those two ends are together, I'm going to bend this up this way and then bend it about there. That way it'll sit on the top of this stone. Now, just straightening these out so that we won't have any kinks while we go through the stone. I'm going to try and keep these together and put them through the front of the wire. And just gently pull it through so the little chair part looks like it's facing down if I'm holding that, or if the chair is facing upwards, my stone is right in front of it like that. And I'm going to just use my thumb while I'm holding on to this, or actually no, I'm going to grasp this whole bit here and bend it forward like that. See? Now my little guy right here is sitting on top of my stone. I'm going to pinch this part here and then use my thumb to bring this wire up around the side and wrap around the neck. Alright, and I'm going to bring one of these around here, and I'm going to leave the other one right here across the front, because I'm going to do some little decorative swirls. This Labradorite pendant that I got is actually, no, I'm going to have this one stay here and this one come around there. Okay. Yeah, I like that better coming from the back. Alright. And I just want my swirls up here because you can see so much of this flash and the striping in the rest of it. I just didn't want any of the wire wrapping that I did to obscure that. So I'm just going to put it right up here next to the bail to keep it sort of positioned well. Alright, so to do a spiral, I've got my little end here, and it is already flush cut from when I cut this off, so I don't need to do that. And I think I want this one to curl in and this one to also curl in. So I'm going to be curling towards the stone on both sides. And I'm going to want to get the end of my wire right here at the end of my round nose pliers. And just do like a little swirl like that. And then I'm going to pick up my chain nose pliers. I'm going to start bending that wire around that swirl. And the best way to do it is to use your finger and just kind of press the wire into the coil instead of the coil into the wire. And go slow. Take your time with your spiraling. Really enjoy it. And then once it's right up here next to my work, I'm going to just use my thumb and press it down flat against it, like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. But I'm going to try and straighten this out a little bit with my fingers. You can get a straighten by like bending it a little bit around your thumb and then around the other finger. And that works out a lot of kinks. So let's see, I curled in there, so I'm going to curl in this way. This end is not flush cut, so let's go ahead and cut it. And this is going to be a bigger swirl because I'm starting with more wire because one of my wires was longer than the other. And that's totally okay with me. I like having different size swirls on my little bail. I'm doing it the same way. Start with a little swirl and hold on to this swirl and just push your wire into it like that. Bloop. See, one is bigger than the other, and so I'm just going to kind of arrange it so one is kind of higher than the other as well. Alright, so that is my little wire wrapped bail on my Labradorite pendant. And now I can start planning out a little bit more of this. I think I'm going to do links with these English cut crystals and these Labradorite rounds, but I'm going to also be using these bead caps on either side of the Labradorite rounds. And we'll have two here, and then we'll do a link, and then two more, and then more links, and then two more, and then we'll finish up with the chain. Okay, now what kind of links do I want to make? I might do wrapped loops. Yeah, I think we're going to do some wrapped loops, and or might also do some wrap-aroundings. Yeah, let's wrap around our beads when we do these. So I'm putting on my English cut crystal, my bead cap with the curved part facing towards the bead I'm about to put on, and then my second bead cap we put on with the curved part facing towards that bead, so it crowns it like that, quite like that. Alright, so I've got that on my wire, and I just am working from my spool. It helps with not using too much wire. So I'm going to do a wrapped loop on this end. I'm going to bend my wire back and then push it around my round nose pliers. And having that bend at the beginning makes it so that I don't have to bend it afterwards. But when we get that wrapped around, it'll give you a nice centered loop. And I think I'm going to wrap this end before I connect it to anything. Actually, no, we're going to wrap all of them, and then we're going to use these jump rings that I made to connect some things. Alright. Yep. Alright, so I've got that wrapped. And let me just talk to you about these cutters that I'm using. I recently got these double flush cutters, and they cut both sides of the wire flush, so you don't have to like go back in and cut off that unflush end on that. They're super, super useful. I used them when I made these jump rings, and it made it so fast to do that. And I used antique copper wire for those so that they would go with everything. But they've got a blunt end right here that makes it difficult to get real close to the ends of your wire when you're cutting those off. So I have these micro flush cutters, also from Xuron, and these will let me get much closer into my work, and these tiny little nippy parts here will let me get to places even like right up next to a bead or in tight spaces, whereas these won't. But these are fantastic for cutting otherwise. Like, that's literally the only drawback to this was the not being able to get in to those tight spaces or right up next to things, and that's where this comes in. So sometimes it's great to have multiple types of tools that you can use. Now I'm going to want enough for a loop and then enough for wrapping around the whole link. So let's go ahead and cut off there. That is about 8 centimeters, about 3.5 inches from there. I'm going to do another loop, and this is wrapped loops, and we're using, again, jump rings to connect, so I don't have to worry about connecting this end of my loop to something before I wrap it. Alright, so now I've got my loop. I'm going to wrap around this stem, and I'm going to describe what I did in a little more detail on my next one. And I'm going to go around that bead, around this bead, around the bottom bead. Whoop, and I guess I should have cut off a little bit more. Let's see if I can tuck this in. Right there. I wanted to be able to have enough to wrap all the way around. I think this is going to work though, so let's cut off a little bit more on my next one, and we'll talk it through a little bit more. Alright. So I'm putting on my beads. Alright, so we bend it back and then bring this around the top. And then in order to wrap it all the way around, I'm going to let go of the wire so that it's not holding onto it and rotate it around to the top. And then keep the wire going all the way around. And that's how you make that little scarf around the neck sort of thing. Hold on to my loop. I'm just using my finger to push it, the end of this, around the neck or the stem of that wire. And then once it's been around there a couple of times, we use our micro flush cutters, the ones that get in real close, to cut off the ends. And usually when I do my wrapped loops, I push my beads up and then measure about 2.5 fingers, and that'll give me a wrap. So that's what I was measuring with my eyeballs before. But I am going to need a lot more than that, so let's do let's do more like 5 inches to cut that. Because I want it to wrap around the bottom there. Alright, so now for my second wrapped loop, I'm going to grip my wire in my chain nose pliers and then just bend this over the top of the chain nose pliers, and that gives me this space right down here that I can wrap around after I make my loop, which I'm going to do right now. Alright, so now that I've got my loop, I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3 times around that stem, and then bring my wire around my English cut bead, bring it around my gemstone bead, and then bring it around this English cut bead again here at the bottom, so that it wraps around the whole thing like that. And then down here, this is where I wanted to have it have the ability to wrap around this stem as well. And it doesn't need to wrap very far. I'm going to use these close nippers again to get in right there. And then my chain nose pliers to just tuck that end in a little bit, because this wrap is decorative. It's not structural like the rest of these are. Alright, so I'm going to make 4 more of these, and we will come back for that. But before I go, because I always get questions about the bracelets that I'm wearing, I wanted to just take a minute so you could see what I spelled out. One of these says sparkle, the other one says kind, and fun fact, if you go like this, now it says my name. And these bracelets I made yesterday while I was watching Kay Goss's presentation for the Softflex Customer Appreciation Week. They're doing it all this week, where they've got tutorials that you can watch for free on their channel. Each of the presenters is somebody who is in the beading space as a small business. And so the Beadoria, which is the small business that Kay Goss has, they had these kits. And the kits came with some sparkly beads, some letter beads, some, what is it called? The stuff, stretch cord. And so I just made these while I was watching her. She demonstrated in her tutorial a completely different design, which is beautiful and probably something that I will make later. But just while she was doing it, I was like, I feel like doing some stringing with some stretch cord and just making some sparkly things. This was the black color and this was the pink color. I got 2 different colors. But anyway, I'll put a link to the that Softflex tutorial or that tutorial on the Softflex channel in the description below, and also a link to Kay's kits that she's selling in case you wanted to get one too. But yeah, that's what this is. I don't have a tutorial on it because it was just something that I made while I was watching a different tutorial. Alright, so I'm going to make 4 of these links and I will come back and join you and we'll put all of this together. Alright, so I made my links and I went ahead and put together one side of my chain. So let's put the other side together. I'm going to start with one of my wrapped beaded links. And then I'm going to grab one of my jump rings. And it's already open. So I'm going to try and get the wrappy side facing up and the decorative side of this facing down, so that when they are together, after I swing this closed and make sure that my ends match up, like that, then when they're together and they hang, my wrappy side of my link will be facing the same direction as the decorative side of that link. That's going to be a little bit opposite on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and put my decorative link with the decorative side facing that way. And because you can see one side is a little less wrappy and one side is more wrappy. So I want my more wrappy side to be facing the decorative side of this when I put it on. That way when we straighten it out, they're both facing the same way. Alright, and now just 2 more links to put together, and then we can attach the focal and then cut our chain, because I like to wait until after I've put my things together to cut my chain. I could measure it all out and use my measuring tape and do a bunch of math, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know, when you've spent the entire day doing technical things and you just want to create or exercise your creative brain instead of doing math things, I'm going to do the easy way. That way I can just use that part of my brain and let my technical brain rest, because I have been at work all day today and doing very technical things. Alright, so again, I've got my decorative side, I've got my wrappy side. Wrappy side faces the decorative side when it's like that, so that when we straighten it out, they are together. And I'm telling you, man, this cutter, look how both sides of that wire are flush. I didn't have to do that. I just cut it with one cut. So easy. It was so nice. My friend Heather sent that to me. If you missed when I opened that up, it was such a thoughtful gift. Absolutely love it. 100% getting good use out of it. Alright, so I'm going to take my jump ring and attach it to the top of this bail, and then to this side of my necklace. I'm going to do the same thing with the jump ring and the other side of the necklace. Since I have a nice wide bail, there's enough room for both ends to go be attached with the jump rings. Come on. Like that. Okay. Now, I'm just going to figure out where I want these bits to end on my neck. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to hold it up there and figure out where I want that to lay. Alright, and I think this part at my collarbone is going to be perfect. So I'm going to take my chain, I'm going to hold on to one end of my chain, and I'm going to hold it to my collarbone and then drape this around the back of my neck. And where it meets the other side of my collarbone, right here, I'm going to shorten it to right there, because that's about how much space that's going to take off. A couple more links for the jump rings. And I think this link right here is where I'm going to go ahead and cut my wire. I don't think these are, yeah, these are not open links on this chain. So you do have to cut them to open them. So swing them open. This is Rolo chain that came in the Bargain Bead Box. Seems like very good chain. It's nice and lightweight too. And now I want to cut this length into equal lengths. So I'm just going to take a piece of my scrap wire here and put one end of my chain right there. Just going to straighten out any kinks and twists, and then grab the other end of my chain and put it right on there so they're hanging from the same place, and follow this down to the end. And it looks like there's two right there, so I'm just going to cut both of those so that it's an even length on that chain. If it had just one hanging down there, I'd just cut the one. But it looks like we had an even amount of links on here, so I cut both of those. Right, so now I've got my 2 lengths of chain. There you go. That's the easy way. That's the easy way to measure your lengths of chain for the back of your necklace, instead of having to use rulers and measuring tapes and do math. You can just do that. Alright, so now that I've got both of my lengths measured and cut, I just need a couple more jump rings. So let's grab a couple more. I'm going to need 4 of those. Actually, let's do 5, because I like to have extra jump rings for the bar part of a toggle clasp, and this toggle clasp also came in the Bargain Bead Box. So, oh, where are you going, buddy? There we go. That's the way you're supposed to be hanging out. I love it already so far. Alright, so let's get this jump ring open. Swing it open. Attach the chain to one end. Attach the other end to that link. Easy peasy. End of the jump ring, the second length of chain to that end, and then another jump ring for the circle part of the toggle closure. Just gonna loop that through that last link on this chain and the toggle. Bargain Bead Box made it really, really easy to make some gorgeous, gorgeous jewelry. I just have to say, like, I have been so impressed with so many of the things that people have been putting together and making. So impressed. I mean, I usually am, though. Like, there's so many creative people out here just making absolutely gorgeous things. Okay, let's see if that will go through. Right, and it does. So, one jump ring there, and then a second jump ring that goes through that jump ring and the bar. And I always like to test that the toggle will close, because once or twice I got a toggle clasp that actually wouldn't bend down enough or something that wouldn't go through, and so now I always have to test it. Okay, so that's it. That is my beaded chain necklace for today. And I'm making, one of the reasons I'm doing beaded chains this month is because it's a personal challenge for me. I am doing at least 2 beaded chain necklaces every week for the month of September. And so this is the first one for this week. I usually do a try-on and wrap-up at the end of the week, but I did not do one this last week. So this week I will do a try-on so you can see this on a person, and I'll also try on last week's makes that I made on my wrap-up this weekend. And I just want to apologize for not posting things this weekend. I wasn't feeling well, so I was taking some time to rest, and I am back at it today. So I hope that you all have had a fantastic week, and that you continue to have a fantastic week. And once more, I'll put the links to the stuff for bracelets. I'll put a link to the Bargain Bead Box if you want to subscribe. I have a link you can use with a coupon code that will get you some dollars off your first month's subscription. They also have a fantastic sister site, Bead Box Bargains, where you can get like basically any of these beads. They're going to be putting extras up for sale after they've made sure that everybody gets their box this month. And so you might be able to find some of these extras, like if you want more of these links, or if you wanted another one of these, or some of the other things that came in this box. They usually put those up there. If you're not a subscriber and you want this box, you can buy it, the entire box, from the Bead Box Bargain site once they list the extras. So it's worth checking them out at any time. They're a fantastic bead subscription, and they're one of my favorites, and I just absolutely love working with them. And this is I think going to be one of my favorite things that I've made. Anyway, hope you're having a great blah, blah, blah. It's been a long day. Hope you're having a great day. If you like what you see, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. I'll talk with you later. Happy beading.